Welcome to Let's Get Writing. I'm your host, Catherine Taylor. My guest today is a food scientist and Red Seal chef, and she can make the magic, the art, and most importantly, the science behind being a great cook the way few others can. She is a 30-year career food scientist specializing in meat, poultry, and seafood processing. She and her husband, Leslie, are proud owners of Java Jack's restaurant and gallery and B&B in Rocky Harbor, Newfoundland, Canada. And those of you who know our province know that's a very beautiful place. In a typical season, the restaurant serves some 12,000 guests. She really knows her stuff. And let's welcome Chef Colleen Hiscock to Let's Get Writing. And I'm just going to bring you up, Colleen, and welcome you to Let's Get Writing here. Hi, how are you?
Good, I'm good. How are you, Catherine?
Great. Well, I'm in central Newfoundland and you're on the West Coast, and technology is great.
So far.
So far. Colleen, your beautiful book, actually, let me just show it in the screen here so people can see it right off the top. There we go, Like Magic. And it's fresh off the press. And I think the first question that comes to my mind, and probably everyone's mind at this point, like magic. Because for me, cooking isn't always like magic. Do tell. How did you come up with this title and why?
Oh, it's like anything that you're looking to have something that culminates the idea of. I always you spend quite a lot of time thinking about what is it really that I'm after? I want to show people it's about the science. So it's not magic, but it's like magic. If you use the elements of science, then the results magically appear. So, through the course of, many iterations and, lots of time of thinking about it, you think about it in the shower, you think about it as you're walking, and you go, what really could culminate the concept or the idea, what I'm trying to get across. And so like magic became that. And then, the tagline, like use the magic of science to release the chef in you. Really, if you have some elements of science, then you too can be a chef in your own kitchen. So, and the element of adding science ensures that you are going to have the same results again and again and again. And so like magic, you have confidence now. You're going to create wonderful food every single day. And so that's the idea behind it. So coming up with it, sometimes those things just appear. I know you say like magic. Yeah, that's it. It's actually like magic.
Well, I tell you, what really got me was when I was looking through the book and I saw you can have these results again and again and again. And I'm one of these cooks that goes into the kitchen and it's like luck. I just don't have the attention span. And then when I went through your book and looked at the recipes, and also, which I will say, I'm so motivated. Cookbooks do that to me. I get so motivated. But you made it like nothing was like a gazillion ingredients or anything that I really wasn't familiar with. And you had really good tips, like such as how to prepare your kitchen, how to be ready before you start. I think that what other tips do you share with people like me? And even experts, what do you feel are important things to do?
Well, we oftentimes think that cooking is sensationalized, right? Sensationalized by media, if you will. And yet we have to nourish ourselves every day. And so some people are very much at arm's length. They look at a recipe and go, if I don't follow this recipe, word for word, I'm so worried that it's not going to turn out. And yet we learn a lot of these science principles we learned through grade school, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and yet we're too young to kind of connect the dots as to how they apply to our everyday lives and how we can utilize them every single day. It is kind of interesting. And the reason that I actually went forth to write this is to sort of dispel some myths, help people with some usual issues that they have, or try and untether people from a recipe that, they can freestyle with whatever they have in their kitchen. And so, the idea about using a familiar recipe, things that you already know you're going to like, things that you have in your kitchen or at the grocery store that you can get, particularly in rural Newfoundland or in a rural area. It's sometimes you're unsure, am I going to get those gherkins over at the grocery store that's in town? So my idea is be able to use things that are around you, be able to provide content and concepts that are foundational, so that, if you can't get the red kidney beans, you can have the white kidney beans, or you can have the black beans. And those things will all apply in terms of being able to create something fabulous and maybe new or upscale traditional, make it a little healthier, less out of the processed box. So that's the concept behind kind of the idea around the familiar recipes, and the do it again and again and again, and make sure that you're going to be able to feel confident in the kitchen. I would like to enable everyone to be able to create their own recipes in the kitchen. Oftentimes you go to a dinner party and the host has got this special recipe, and that nobody else can recreate because they've done something super special. And that's okay, right? To be able to have your own special dish and to be confident that you can share it with others is really a great thing. So you can create your own and be the chef in your own kitchen without this daunting, sensational thing. Oh, I can't be that. And then
I've had those cookbooks. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, what is that? I don't know what that is. And areas where, that I've explained some of the ingredients or even some of the sayings, some of the tools that chefs, or if you open up a cookbook and you go, I'm going to whisk that to the ribbon. Well, what is that? So there's a glossary to be able to kind of get you there. And then if you're really stuck, I'll have some YouTube videos that you can actually go to, QR codes in there. I think I have yet to see another cookbook that has put them in. But I really want to enable people to have confidence and success in the kitchen.
And actually, I'm just going to put your YouTube channel up here, because I did hop on there and I subscribed and had a look at what you were doing. And you are so wonderful when you do this. You have such a passion for it. But one of the little things I liked in the cookbook, on one page, it said, well, if you don't have baking soda, you can use cream of tartar and salt or something together could replace baking soda. And I thought, this is genius.
Yes, so you're looking for something that's going to create a leavening. So it'd be an acid to do that. So it was baking soda and tartar. So it's an acid and the soda. So it's an acid and a base that you're putting together, and in place of like baking powder.
Baking powder. That was it. Yeah. And I thought, this is genius. My daughter goes, Mom, who's got cream of tartar? I said, I do have that. My mother always told me, have cream of tartar in the kitchen because you just never know when you're going to need it. But I thought you had very practical ideas in there they spoke to me. They were really, I was like, oh, I can do this. Yeah, I think through your book, I felt confident that I could take it and go with almost, I think, any recipe there.
And that has been some of the feedback, actually. Yeah, even pan-fried cod. Yeah, that's been some of the feedback, Catherine. People look at it and go, "Oh, I can make this food. I can do that." And I go, "Yeah." So the starting point is not too unfamiliar. How to boil an egg? Like, there's people who are precious about, it's 8 minutes from boiling, or it's 10 minutes from cold. And I give you the concept. It doesn't matter. Here's what's actually happening in the egg. And cold or hot, whatever your thing, whatever the condition or the size of the egg, here's the concept of what's actually going on. And now you can freestyle whatever way you want. So if you know what's actually going on in the egg, then you can warm it on the side. You can have it, if it's already, room temperature, though I wouldn't advocate eggs to be room temperature, but if you're going to put them in the pot in room temperature water, then you know that you're going to bring it up to the boil and wait until that the egg actually has time for the whites to set and the yolk to set as well. And we call it, the terminology is coagulate, but that's the concept. And so then from there you say, okay, well, now I know how to do that. What's the concept? How do I take that to a deviled egg? And how do I use the same concept for mayonnaise or hollandaise or, all those things that you'd love to try? I give you the step-by-step. Here's the way to do it, and here's the way that it's going to happen and be flawless for you.
I loved it. And a lot of points in sort of when you whip and when you're gentle with food. And one of the things that was in there that I think people would find interesting, you talked about the speed with which you cook food or the approach to the actual cooking. And some people want to do things slow and low. But can you just talk a little bit about that? Because I thought your take was a little bit refreshing on that.
Well, I'm a bit of a speed demon to start with, but my favorite topic is time and temperature. Time and temperature. And I have a chapter where I talk a little bit about how, as a food scientist and a leader developing food products for the food industry, I had stood in front of, hundreds of people talking about it, all of the relationship between time and temperature. They're highly correlated, and the relationship between them can have such value. So if you are using, a slow time, and then you're going to have the temperature, it's not going to cook as fast. If you increase that temperature, then you are going to speed the cooking time. And people will say, well, is it going to be tough? Is the meat going to be tough? The reason you use this slow and low concept is it's about tenderizing the meat. And I share in the cookbook, here's what's going on. You're actually breaking down the collagen and melting it not only at the joints, particularly for meat, because that's what you're going to do. It's a slow and low. You're going to cook it that way. The same concept for baking actually as well. Like you can actually change the way you do those things. Some of the ingredients need to change, but it can be similar. I'm going to jack it up. I'm going to get it cooked faster. Moisture moves faster. Those molecules of water move faster. But the heat penetrates at a higher energy level, both anything that would be in the joints that has collagen that's going to melt sort of in between, the sheath that would be on a well-worked muscle. So the meat in particular, stewing meat has a lot of connective tissue, and usually it's the muscle that has been worked the most. So it's the one that we're using on our legs or our arms. And so it's got a lot of connective tissue. You need time for that to melt. But if you increase the temperature, it melts at a faster rate. And so not to mention that, the outside of the muscle has got this silver skin or this chewy skin connective tissue, but also the muscle bundles on the inside have that as well. And so you're waiting for that to melt. So higher temperature will get you there faster. The molecules go a little faster because you have more kinetic energy, and as a result, you can go faster. So it is
and
really,
it won't be tough. No,
it won't be tough.
Same result?
So still time and temperature relationship. So you could say, well, am I going to be, at 350 or 325? I'm going to be, 3 hours or 4 hours. If I go 450, I'm going to be 2 hours, or I'm going to be 1 hour. And so it works that way.
I love the scientist in you, and it comes through. It just totally comes through. Okay, a scientist has a lab. What's in your lab, Colleen? Because
Science
you keep that pretty simple. Yeah, you keep that kitchen pretty simple as well. At least in your book, you conveyed that we don't need the world to be great cooks. And tell us, what are your favorite things?
Yes. So in the book, I articulate that, yes, there is a whole industry of things out there that you can get. And yeah, you can get a lot more efficient with, an increased amount of tools you have around. You got to wash more of them, though. That's part of the problem. But if you are starting out and you say, what are the favorite things that I must have in my kitchen? I mean, a couple of knives. And if you are going out and buying knives, invest in a very large chef's knife, because it can cut through meat. It'll chop vegetables. Vegetable type of knife that has little bevels in it that will allow the moisture to wick away, so that the cucumber doesn't stick to your knife. The paring knife, just a couple of those. I wouldn't go crazy in terms of price. You can buy 4 or 5 of them, and you lose them, you break them, then you can go get yourself another one. A pan. The pan is a omelet pan. It makes great eggs. It's got a little round edge to it. And after that, it becomes fairly simple. Scrapers from the dollar store. It becomes, typical can opener. You're going to have a thermometer. Must have a thermometer. Everything around the thermometer. A scale. I have a scale. Now, if I'm doing product development, I actually have an analytical scale that I purchased for that, where you get down to minute quantities of, fancy ingredients. But for the most part, for everyday cooking, a simple scale. Bought at a regular store, but a kitchen store or a Canadian Tire, any kind of the regular department stores around have, easy kitchen sale. The grocery stores often carry those simple tools too. Thermometers is a must-have. Scale. The measuring cups. In my book, I'm fairly specific around kind of measuring cups. So if you're going to go buy some, they're not wildly expensive, but no lips on them to make sure that they're sort of square, and you can do a scoop and swipe on them. But just to make sure that your measurements are going to be a little bit better. I go quite into length about preparation. I think preparation is a big deal, and it's not about the fancy tools. Oftentimes, kind of what you do with what you have around you. I check out the dollar stores around, and I have many tools from there, and I can go through a lot of those tools before I get to the price tag of a big fancy thing that I'll probably go through in the same amount of time as well.
So we can all do it without, and I felt pretty good. I had a scale in my kitchen. I have a couple of thermometers. So I feel I'm on the right path with your book. And Colleen, when people read the book and get involved in it, it is so helpful. And you tell some nice stories in there. Was that the catalyst to get you to write this? Was your experience through life, or you fit those in beautifully in each section? Tell us a little more about that.
Yes, I mean, when you grow up, I'm like everyone else, relatively normal person, I would think, and so you go through a lot of learning of your own, and then as you learn more and have been through the education that I have, and you'd say, well, people say this, but it's not actually quite right. And so how can I share that? So here's my experience. We went up north, and we, myself, my daughters, and my husband dove into this wonderful experience where we were snowmobiling, and dinner was fabulous. And we had this wonderful soup, and all of a sudden this creme brulee in a poached apple comes out to the table, and this little snowman, dehydrated apples, and I go, I want to try that at home. Like, that was so great, so fabulous. I want to try that. So we go home, and there's no way in this world that I could recreate it. It just didn't happen. And I'm sure people have that kind of experience. Say, well, okay, what was really going on there? Like, when I started diving into the science of eggs as a meat, poultry, and seafood scientist, you don't do too much on eggs, but as you dive in and you learn yourself, and you say, oh, okay, now I know what's going on. Here's what's going on. Okay, now I can make this flawlessly the entire time. So connecting people to my experience of, with the science, I felt that I could bring people into the science in that way. Normal person, right? I have the same experiences. You look at things, go, oh, I'd like to try that at home. My mother-in-law and I used to have that kind of experience. Well, I want to try that. And she would be a bit of an early adopter on cooking. And so it was always delightful to have a conversation with her about what she was trying. Oh, you got to try this, Colleen, it's a new recipe. And anytime we'd come to visit, you know, she'd have something special she wanted to try for me. So similar experience. You know, how I got into this in one of the chapters on seafood. I was wandering in the desert looking for what my career was going to be. I was going to be a dietitian. I loved food. I had this wonderful experience with food. I was a swimmer, competitive swimmer as a teenager. So I was intimate with food, I guarantee you. I was
Needed lots of it.
eating machine. And so I wanted to be a dietitian, wrote an article about free fatty acids, arthrosclerosis. I was into how seafood would be so great. So, but I worked in a hospital. It wasn't for me. I really did not feel that was kind of the environment I wanted to be in. So moved on to chemistry. Said, yeah, I can do chemistry. Couldn't see a path at that time. And then I took a food science course, and the instructor there was inspirational. So he gave us a white paper on postmortem physiology of all things, you know, what happens when something dies. And, you know, went out around the bay where my father is from. He's from Ship Harbor, Placentia Bay. And went out around the bay. My father had, my parents have a cottage there. And we went out in a fishing boat, and he and I, you know, loved being on the water. And so went out cod jigging that day. I could see exactly what was happening that was in this white paper that the professor had given me. So, you know, here's what's actually going on. We actually see it in front of our eyes every day. So it became so clear that this is, and of course, then you look and go, oh yeah, you know, you're really geeking out here. But it was really so interesting. So I share that in there as well, that fish is not meant to be smelly. If it's processed well, which is many of the meat manufacturers, many of the seafood manufacturers follow those basic science principles. This is the food you get, and it's fabulous, and it doesn't smell, and it's so easy to prepare, and you could have so much more, and here's what's going on. And so, you know, those experiences, like, you know, it just is, you know, and that became my passion for 30.
And I think, yeah, many of us, I think, if we have a teacher or someone in our life influences us, we have something, you know, that resonates, we want to pursue it. Now, you always wanted to have a cookbook, and this is your first cookbook, and you, I'm sure there were challenges. The photography is beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about the book. And you printed it with Talent, it's a Canadian company. So how did you land there, and what were the challenges with taking the book from your kitchen and your mind to this?
Yes, well, you know, I had always been wanting to do a cookbook. My mother prepared her own cookbook, a compilation of recipes. I felt, you know what, I'd like to do that too. And with the restaurant, I felt that I probably could share that. And particularly since we have the gallery is a bit of our retail space, I said, well, I could probably share that. And with so many people coming to the restaurant, enjoying the food, the basis of the food is science-based. It's got a French influence. I went to Saint-Pierre-Miquelon when I was, you know, first in university, and enjoyed the food there. So, you know, those first foundational experiences really is the basis for most of the food that I create. I loved kind of where the culinary world has come from with, you know, 5 mother sauces out of Escoffier and stuff. So those are sort of pinnacle things. Thought, okay, you know, I've got the restaurant, people are asking for recipes, and people say, well, you know, you're going to do a cookbook, let me know. I would love to buy it. So great, fabulous. So I got involved with a lady by the name of Anita Stewart. Now, she is the founder of Food Day Canada. And she set forward a law whereby the first Saturday of August would be set aside for local food celebration. Now, she's since passed away, but she shared with me, she said, you need to talk to so-and-so over at Penguin Random House. So I did. And as I spoke to him, realized, well, I don't have enough people, but he gave me, his name's Robert McCullum, and he gave me the background as to what I needed to do to prepare a proposal for publication. So I said, okay, great. And then I created the outline, went through that process of a bit of a, if you will, almost like a business plan. Here's what is, here's my target market. You really need to hone in on, what do you want to do? And then you say, okay, really, what is your objective? I said, I really like people to connect with science and food. And when the pandemic arrived, we would do that. Now, how I got there, so created that proposal, sent it back to Robert. Robert evaluated, said, okay, you need to go to some regional folks. So you start to run around to different regional publishers, and then realize that where I am and what I have in terms of my own offering in the gallery, that I need to be a self-published author. So Tellwell was really great in terms of helping along. Their process is step by step. You go through one step of the process and then you send it back to them. And it's really something everyone can do. That wasn't wildly expensive, so very affordable to get that work done, and the experience was great. The quality of the book that they did, they helped me with choosing the quality of the book. The paper, that's in here is spill proof. The book itself actually lays flat, which I think is actually a really fabulous feature, because
very nice.
You're looking for your recipe and you can't get it back, and your hands are dirty, or you got the oven mitts on and you're trying to find the page.
Well, you did a beautiful job. And Colleen, our time together is coming to a close. And I could certainly know you could passionately talk about this for a long time, but I do want to encourage people to check it out, check out the magic of her book. And I think someday, Colleen, one of your passions and goals would be to see it in the hands of maybe a school curriculum, and we do hope you get there. Folks, thanks so much for joining us on Let's Get Writing, and don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe, and have a great week. And this is a great way to start your new year.